And now over to my colleague Paulami Saha. She's getting our special show now on Tata's takeover of Air India. Remember, this is going back home and literally a full circle for the Tatas. Take a look at this.
Tatas have boarded Air India. Tata Group has officially taken over Air India from the Government of India. The formalities have been completed, the shares have been transferred, and Tata Group says the golden age of Air India now lies ahead.
The Maharaja is returning home to the Bombay House. After 69 long years of being nationalised and grounded into a pale shadow of its glorious past by a mix of politicians and bureaucrats, Air India is now back with the Tatas.
Well, the formalities have been completed. The Air India disinvestment transaction is closed. The shares have been transferred to the Talace, which is a successful bidder. Consideration amount has been received. And so now the new owners are the Talace.
We are totally delighted that this process is complete. Very happy to have Air India back in the Tata Group.
After years of flying with heavy losses, a bloated workforce and continuous interference by government servants and politicians who preyed on its first-class seats, Narendra Modi government has succeeded in doing what was considered impossible. Even Arun Shourie, the die-hard prophet of privatization who undertook the largest privatization drive in India's history under Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, may not have dreamt of how the return the controls to Bombay House would happen. Modi's determination to get the government out of the business of flying civil aviation is what is behind the sale. Also behind the sale is the 84-year-old patriarch of the group, Ratan Tata, and his determination to reclaim JRD Tata's legacy. This is what drove India's largest conglomerate, the $310 billion Tata Group, to take control of an airline that was largely flying on the fumes of taxpayer-funded indulgence. Tata Group Chairman Emeritus Ratan Tata had shared an emotional message on social media immediately after the group had won the bid to take back the reins of Air India. Sharing an old photograph of JRD Tata stepping down from an Air India aircraft, Ratan Tata had written, "Welcome back, Air India," adding that former chairman JRD Tata would have been overjoyed if he were here today. So even as the formalities of the takeover are underway, a new board will be constituted soon, replacing the outgoing government-appointed one. The Tatas are likely to appoint a veteran aviation industry expert as the CEO. The merger of Air India Express and AirAsia India is also set to commence next week. The Tatas, who are partners with Singapore Airlines in Vistara, have made a fresh multi-year blueprint to restore the lost glory of the Maharaja. Big ticket changes like fleet and cabin upgrade will take time, but the initial focus would be on improving an on-time performance, better meals, and a more customer-friendly approach. Bureau Report, India Today.
Air India has come a full circle. Tata Group was the founder of Air India, which was nationalised in 1953. When JRD Tata in fact launched the airline in 1932, it was the first carrier of the country and was used to fly mail between Karachi and Bombay. After 68 years, Air India is now back with the Tatas.
An air of nostalgia in India. Air India. In 1932, Air India, then known as Tata Air Services, took its first flight. This iconic first flight was piloted by none other than Jahangir Ratanji Dadaboy Tata himself. An aviator and businessman, he founded the airline with 2 lakh rupees. Sir Dorabji Tata, the then chairman of Tata Sons, gave this money to JRD rather reluctantly. But JRD did not disappoint. He held his passion venture close to his heart and transformed it into a full-fledged business, growing it from a night airmail service to a leading commercial carrier. Eventually, it got known as Air India and Air India International. 1946, the aviation division of Tata Sons was listed as Air India. 1948, Air India International took off with flights to Europe. The international service was amongst the first public-private partnerships in India. The government held 49% stake, the Tatas 25%, and the public owned the rest. In 1953, Air India was nationalised. It was only in 2001 that the NDA government first attempted to divest the airline, rather unsuccessfully. The privatisation plans were shelved in the year 2004 as the UPA-1 government took over. It was only in 2017 Air India privatisation plans received an approval from the centre after mounting debt of over 50,000 crore rupees for the national carrier. In the year 2018, despite an expression of interest of 76% stake sale in Air India, no bids were received for the financially ailing airline. It was only in 2020, the year of the COVID pandemic, that the government listed Air India again for divestment, offering 100% stake sale this time around. Tata Group was amongst the multiple entries that put an initial expression of interest, or EOI, to buy the Maharaja. And in 2021, Tata Sons won the final bid for acquiring Air India. A landmark moment in Indian economic history and the start of the end of nationalisation of the airline. The crown jewel of aviation has returned home to the Tatas full circle. In New Delhi, Chaiti Marula, India Today.
I spoke exclusively to Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia after Tata's acquisition of Air India. Let's listen in to this exclusive conversation. Mr. Scindia, thank you so much for speaking to India Today, sir. How relieved are you feeling, sir? How relieved are you feeling, sir? A big responsibility off your table.
Well, let me say this, that not only I, but I think the civil aviation fraternity and the people of India at large all stand to gain from the culmination of a very, very long process that has been in the making for almost over two decades. And I'm extremely relieved and extremely happy that we have culminated this transaction. Through you, I would like to congratulate the new owners, the Tatas of Air India, and wish them the very best. And it's only because of the steely resolve and grim determination of our Prime Minister that this process has actually seen the light of day. A company that had been bleeding for the last 20-odd years, close to about between debt and equity, 2 lakh crores of taxpayers' money, almost 20 crores a day, today has been handed over to the private sector. And I'm very confident that with the Tata's infusion of talent as well as resources, Air India will once again command the high skies that it always has. I would also like to say that this is a testament to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government and his initiative that the responsibility of government is not to be in business, but instead to create an environment for business to flourish and for the ecosystem to flourish. And this is exactly what you have seen in this precedent with the Air India privatization transaction.
At any stage, Mr. Scindia, did you feel that, this process could be derailed, especially with the litigation, the Devas litigation as well? Did you feel that the process could be derailed?
Well, there were many times when certainly what appeared to be as roadblocks, but I must thank all the members of the Civil Aviation Ministry and all the members of Air India that put their best foot forward, along with the Finance Ministry and DIPAM, and ensured that this transaction sees the light of day finally. And I'm sure that even for the civil aviation industry in the days to come, it will herald a new dawn, and we will have another India flag carrier in the form of Air India commanding the skies, domestic and international, in the days to come.
Right, so this is a privatization process that has in fact reached the culmination stage, has been culminated. That's happening almost after 2 decades. The last one possibly happened around 2003, 2004. Any sort of key learnings, though?
Many key learnings. I think the process has to be always iterative. The process has to be consultative, and you have to evolve the best way forward, which is what you have seen with this transaction. This privatization program, which started, as you mentioned, in 2017, has gone through many iterations through the process. Initially, we were looking at selling 76%, then we looked at a golden share option, then we looked at 100% debt option, and it has evolved through the process. And I think that shows the outlook of Prime Minister's government and Prime Minister's view that we have to ensure that a transaction happens and make sure that it's a consultative process as we go along. And that has been the hallmark of this government.
Right. So as Aviation Minister, any words for Tata Sons as they take over? Something, they've been in the business, they are in the business of aviation already, but any sort of words of advice? Anything you'd like to tell them?
I wish them all the very best. They have all the required talent as well as strategy elements to make this a success. I'm very, very confident, and more power to the elbow, and may they fly high.
Okay, so what's the next big task on your table right now? Also, in terms of, your vision for the aviation sector, in terms of infrastructure growth, because, for instance, even though the third wave, for instance, has slowed down traffic, we do see that airlines are struggling for slots, for terminal capacity. What are we thinking about on those lines?
Well, we had through our policy formulations, we had an extremely robust return to normalcy post-Delta. As of October 18th, we were operating at 100% capacity. Capacity caps were done away with. Seat load factors by December were in the mid-80s, which is extremely robust for the aviation sector. But then Omicron came along.
Yeah.
And so those numbers have again reduced significantly. But I'm very confident that once Omicron tides over in the next couple of weeks, we will again see a resurgence in air travel. Air travel today is no longer a luxury. It has become a necessity. With lowered fares, it has become one of the most viable forms of travel. And I'm very confident that we will go back to the pre-COVID numbers again. Just like we did in the month of November and December, pre-COVID numbers per day were roughly about 4 lakh travelers, 4 to 4.2 lakh travelers. We were roughly at about 3.9 lakhs in the months of November and December. So I'm very confident that we'll not only go back to that, but surpass that. We are also looking at putting in place policy initiatives to make sure that there is capacity augmentation, both in terms of new airport development, private sector plus the government, Airports Authority of India. As you have seen, we have inaugurated almost 3 or 4 new airports, be it Dehradun, be it Kushinagar, be it Agartala. We have laid the foundation stone of a number of new airports, and that huge upside in terms of airport development is going to continue with the likes of Jewar and so on and so forth. So we hope to see a great growth in this sector. But let me underline for you, Paulomi, that it's not only about airports and airlines. It's about the whole ecosystem.
Right.
And therefore, I'm looking at MROs, I'm looking at cargo, I'm looking at regional airlines, I'm looking at seaplane operations, helicopter operations, because we need to give the whole sector a boost to make sure that this sector goes to where it needs to in terms of improving infrastructure in India. And that's why we've come out with new policy initiatives on MROs, on helicopters, and so on and so forth. And that process will continue.
Right. Mr. Scindia, thank you so much for speaking exclusively to India Today, sir. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us on Air India as it takes flight today as a Tata Sons enterprise. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
With the Tatas taking over Air India, what's going to change? With a private company like the Tatas set to take charge, what can passengers expect? Take a look at this report.
Boarding an Air India flight, an experience millions of air passengers will be familiar with. Flying on India's national carrier, common on national and international travel plans. But with the Tatas all set to take over Air India, passengers will be wondering what's going to change. While much is still up in the air, let's try and answer the questions you, the passenger, have. For starters, will Air India, the brand, cease to exist? India Today hears that the Tata Group, partners in the Vistara and AirAsia Airlines, could be looking at the possibility of bringing all its airline ventures, including Air India, under a single entity. A move that would remove complications involved in combining the organizational structures and reduce operational costs. Any hypothetical single Tata airline entity combining Air India, Vistara and AirAsia India would together have a 26% share of the domestic aviation market in India. Sizable, but still much lower than market leader Indigo that has a giant share of 57%. The next question, what about Air India's famously subpar interiors of its aircraft? Owing to Air India's terrible financial state for decades, some of the sad occasional hallmarks of Air India include poor upkeep of aircraft interiors. With a private company like the Tatas set to take charge, passengers should expect an immediate sea change on this front. Spruced up interiors on the lines of Vistara or AirAsia. Another complaint has been the lack of modern amenities common on other airlines. On Air India, passengers have long resigned themselves to old or non-existent seat facilities like entertainment consoles. With the Tatas taking charge, expect this to be a sure shot change, with charging points, entertainment consoles and other facilities on every seat. While Air India staff have strived to put on a more professional face for passengers, aloofness and indifference have frequently been complaints. With a private player now controlling the airline, passengers can expect more polite and empathetic cabin crew and ground staff. In addition to these, passengers should expect more robust ticketing, deals, and a much more efficient online experience. The takeover and conversion process will take months, but at the other end of the tunnel promises to be a cleaned-up Air India set on a trajectory towards financial viability, and a true competitor for passenger loyalty and love. The symbolism of the Maharajas' original Namaste will hopefully be back. Bureau Report, India Today.
A big controversy has erupted over Air India's new weight check rule. According to a new company circular, every cabin crew member must pass through body mass index and weight checks via grooming associates. Here's a report.
Air stewards and stewardesses have long abided by the strictest of uniform codes, from their hair to their clothes to even the shoes that they wear. And now add constant weight checks to that list. That's right. Air India has conveyed to its cabin crew that they will now be subject to body mass index, which is BMI, and weight checks on a quarterly basis by grooming assistants, a move that has not gone down well with the employees. The order passed on 20th of January also stated that cabin crew who are well-dressed, groomed according to uniform standards and regulations present a positive and professional image of the airline. In a strongly worded letter, Air India's cabin crew union objected to the new company circular to the airline's in-flight services department. The union has cited that they have been undergoing BMI and weight checks from 2008 as per the civil aviation requirements issued by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, and that these checks were conducted only by medical professionals or doctors and not grooming assistants. The cabin crew have even highlighted that the new requirement could disturb cabin crew members mentally ahead of their flights. The Tata takeover of Air India has kicked off on a stormy note, as cabin crew employees have made it clear that they will oppose the new weight check rule.
While the airline prepares itself for a formal handover to its new owners in a couple of days, the cabin crew unions are challenging any change in service terms, especially because the government assured all Air India employees status quo for 1 year. So it remains to be seen if the circular in question is eventually withdrawn or not. With camera person Deepak Bisht, Polami Saha in Delhi for India Today. That's a wrap on this bulletin. For all the latest news and updates, you can log on to indiatoday.in. You can also download the India Today app. Thanks for watching.